on this computer. All the buttons move around too. It didn't do anything. Pause recording. Well, maybe because we already have a recording. Okay, I guess because your thing's already recording, it didn't pop up a warning, but it says it's recording, so we'll see.
I could press record here too. Good. With
Whichever
3
you
record.
like.
It says recording on your screen, on your share screen, so it's probably going.
Okay. All right.
Now,
So, did you have a question?
no, sorry. Go ahead. I was all good.
I'm trying to find. I started writing a use a custom. What are they called? Hook. Oh, here we go. Use flow data. So in theory, this is the new hook that we can use, and you use it for everything. And in the hook, you send in actions, and then anywhere that you're using this hook and the data is coming out of it, the first thing it'll automatically update React Flow, and then also anything else that you've built off either the React Flow objects or the reason score objects. So it should all just work once we get it plugged in. The problem is
Interesting.
I don't have it calculating all the visualizations for the flows and everything. But kind of need to plug this into the page. I don't think it'd be fair to make you do it, although you might be able to. I mean, if you look at this, well, I don't know. I guess I could try it real quick. So this is the page. My goodness, this is big. And we might be able to take a lot of this out because like all the React Flow stuff is in there as well. So we're using the use node states and use jet states. So we should be able to replace all of those with use flow. And that's probably a bad name. Use React. No, not use React Flow.
In use flow data, it was called something else, if that matters. There was no use in front of it.
Oh yeah. What do I call
Yeah,
it? Flow data
flow data
provider.
provider.
Is that a terminology someone used? Why did I choose that? It's a we should use the hook naming convention.
I actually just watched a video on that, on creating your own hooks. I mean, it was not a comprehensive one, but
Yeah.
I kind of understand what's going on.
And it's neat. It just lets you kind of like dump all that stuff into one hook and then reuse it in several screens. Because if we make another UI, well, no, we probably won't use this because the other UI probably wouldn't be using React Flow. But it still kind of consolidates. Like this page is pretty big, so it'd be nice to not have to worry about it. I'll get this thing off my.
There also like the create node and stuff should get exported out of that page.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that functionality that I want to remove still.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that should belong in this hook or some of it will go in because you'll just be able to put an action for it, but there's still a question. We're going to call it use flow data. There's still a question of where it should belong. I don't know if it should belong in this hook or not. Flow data. It's not. That's not what I expected. Oh, am I? So it works like the other ones, except the other complete stock. No, it's not made for this stuff. So what am I returning? So I'm returning. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Use flow data. I mean, maybe I didn't finish this. Oh gosh, it seems like I'm further because I expected it to work like a use thing to where I can even see now where this has a whole. This is not a. No, now I've forgotten what I did because this does not look like a React. Um,
Custom hook.
yeah, because it has a return. Well, no, that's right because you want to put it. Okay, because I'm using a context and it has children. But if it has children, it's not a hook, right? It is a provider. Oh, that's the context provider.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm using a context provider. I shouldn't code while I'm driving. Well, I've literally had like 5 steps of this. Okay, so that's a context. That's not a use. So flow data provider. That's the data context.
Okay. So is this similar to what I just recently gave a PR for, which was that use context? Like, would this solve that and more? Is that, am I hearing this
Yeah,
right?
right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a consolidated context that includes the context we want to do plus the context from React Flow.
Okay, cool. So at a high level, I think I understand where you're going with this. So that's good.
Yeah, the only difference is that instead of like using the usual use state, I'm I am using use state for the data, but I'm adding in a reducer. And I didn't use reducer because it has a depend it just didn't work and it took me a little bit harder to think. So instead of doing calling the state, you would call this dispatch. So how is the dispatch? How do we access the dispatch from within the context? Value equals dispatch. We're passing it into the flow data context. I haven't done data context a lot.
I have like never. So I can't be much help here to you, sorry.
Yeah. What I'm thinking I
I'd be
need
happy
to,
to learn it, but no.
yeah, and you probably will need to and have an opportunity to, but you shouldn't have to in the middle. So what I think I need to do is get this use data flow to, I need to plug that into the page. And then this generate nodes and edges, which is the new one, I need to just have it spit out some dummy data and not actually, calculate the flows and everything. Because
Yeah.
I now have to kind of rewrite that whole map. Um, which I can
Can you go
in
back
this
into use flow? Sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Can you go back into use flow data again? So this, and that's going to flow data reducer. What does that look like? The flow data reducer.
So yeah, so you would call the dispatch and then you would send in actions
Yeah.
and then is that
So
what it
set nodes and set edges, and that's doing the React Flow stuff, and then actions will do the back end stuff.
yeah.
And then the set debate data. That one's new for me, but we'll debate data reducer,
Set debate data.
dispatch debate data. Yeah. So I guess what is debate data?
So debate data is the reason score data. So it's the replacement for RS data.
Perfect. Cool. 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 Cool.
Um, yeah.
RS data replaced with debate data. I like
Okay,
that.
so
That
the flow data reducer, that looks like the hook.
yeah, and that's being called in your use flow data eventually. Like it goes through a
Yeah,
bunch of
but
stuff.
somehow in the page we need to get access to the either the use flow data or the React the flow data reducer. but for the moment, I can't remember how
Yeah.
this is supposed to be plugged into page. Um, so they have a um, I think I was following used context. What? Take me. So context consumer. Oh,
Use
so
context. Yeah, in the video I watched, it did mention the same thing. It said use context is basically replacing the dot consumer.
yeah, I'm not familiar with dot consumer. So, but see this theme context provider, and they have it at the app root
Yep.
kind of level, and then they
Yep.
have the page, and that means all the children beneath it have access to that. But then how do you? Oh, so here's the consumer. You're right. No, what? So wait, what did you say?
Use context is basically replaced consumer. And it says that in the line like just above that code block. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So now we're supposed to do it this way. Use context, theme context. Okay, so what we do is on I don't know, you could play around and see if you know that this is the provider. So if we go to page and we go down in the oh
Yeah, all that
page.
stuff I should remove. It should have been removed a while ago. Sorry.
Oh no. I mean, I think it's not much bigger than the way I made it. So React Flow, blah blah blah. Dev context provider. Oh, I already had a context provider in here. I forgot. Um, so we would want to replace that with the um, flow data provider.
Yeah, I think I overall see where this is going. So I could definitely try and play around with it if you want me to.
Yeah, so those are the, yeah, I mean, it would probably be worth a try. Um, so take a copy of main. Oh, now I don't, I actually, the other problem I had is I tried to take out this extra little app in here because I don't know why we have a React Flow provider. But when I took it out and just put this stuff in up here, it didn't work. It argued with me, so I didn't want to mess with it.
Yeah, I wonder if it's supposed to be there. I can look into the docs for that too. So the React Flow docs for React Flow provider,
Yeah,
and then also add the flow data provider. Okay. Yeah, no, like I'd be happy to look into it. I'd I'd learn a ton and be great.
yeah, yeah. So it's the pieces that are definitely missing is at some point something calls the generate nodes and edges, and the code may already be in there. Let's see. Find all references. No, not used yet. anyways, this, we have that other one that's going to generate the nodes and edges. So eventually, the problem is you can't replace one without replacing the other because the data is a completely different shape. So this still needs to like put at least some dummy data in the node datas and the edge datas. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so even if it doesn't do the calculations, then we can fill it in later. Um, and then yeah, so this is a this is a custom context provider, and it's very similar to that original stuff. I just can't remember how to hook it up. I guess doing use context. Well, theme equals use context theme. So we would have, although what do we need to, theme context dot, oh, we don't use consumer anymore. I hate that where they have documentation. Value equals theme. So flow data provider, use flow data provider, flow data provider. Let's get these names right. Can you rename from here? No, that would be too easy. Because I started doing uh, I started just doing a custom use. What's this? Hook. And then I realized I need a whole context.
So do you think we still, and this is where I'm not sure, I don't know.
Hmm?
Are you still needing to add a custom use hook? Because I see that, so the provider's there, I see that, but are we,
I don't
is
think so.
there,
I think the context
or this is it?
does. Yeah, I think the context does the whole thing now.
Okay,
I just
okay.
need to figure out. I can't remember what on the provider what I need to provide it. So if they have value theme,
So they're passing value.
where are they using value? At the props value, the value that when passed to all components reading the context inside, no matter how deep. I don't remember that at all. Is it literally value equals and then what? Flow data provider. Children. Children. How value equals. Let's no, so I have a flow data context provider here already and a children. Okay, so you know what? So I went further down in the documentation. So down there, down here they say somewhere they said, oh, and let's wrap all this up in context. I'm not finding that example now. Old.
So this form looks similar to yours. So the example of overriding context, overriding a theme, it's on the same page you're on, the React use context. So if you go to examples of overriding, where's the sidebar? On this page reference, are you on the same page? I'm trying to see here, sorry. React use context, React. Oh, I'm on use context rather than create context. I'm
Oh,
on the use context
yeah,
page.
that's probably right. Well,
It was probably that first one. This one looks like you're in the TypeScript. That was confusing though. I wouldn't have known which to click there on that menu. Yeah, maybe search again. Yeah, probably that one.
Oh, I have,
Either of the first two.
why is it not? Hello. All right,
Yeah,
just
there
a
it goes.
second.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah,
I
yeah. If you keep scroll, oh, that there it is. Or there, yeah, that one. Oh no, I'm
yeah,
on
so
exam.
you will go ahead and wrap. Well, no, this is in my page. Okay, so but I think later on they talk about.
Yeah, if you keep going down one more, it's called override. This one, this one. Okay, down a bit. So in this example, it looks a bit more like yours because they have the form function, which is your form data function, inside of the app or on the same page. So you have my app, which has the theme context provider, and the form, which also has the theme context provider. If you scroll down in that app.js,
Yeah,
no,
let
back
me
in
look
okay.
because I think there was even a more advanced thing where they said, oh, and you can wrap them all up
Oh,
in
okay.
a component, and then use the component, and then you don't have to have this. That's re-rendering. That's not. I don't care about that. Annoying. I'm not. This documentation does not look like what I was following. So I have a provider. Is this all part of the provider? Yes, it's all part of the provider. You put a there was some documentation that said, here's how you can wrap up, all of your context into a component.
Yeah, I'm scanning to see what I can get from these docs.
Growing up in context.
In in the documentation you recall when it was saying wrap, was there anything about heading, like wrapping a bunch of headers? Does that ring a
I
bell?
didn't know, so that's what
No.
looks different. I don't think I was the example of headers at all. Now it's possible I was looking at the older documentation.
There's also like a somewhere on the use context page is a link to passing data deeply with context. That might be what you were looking
Yeah,
for,
that
but I'm not
sounds.
sure. Yeah, it's just like one of the blue links, I think near the bottom. Maybe it was in troubleshooting. I'll see if I can find it again. Go back. Why is it not coming? It's on the overriding context example in the use context page. So if you go to the menu on the right hand side, overriding context. Yeah. And then in this panel, no shoot, what? Why does it look examples of overriding? I am super confused now because I swear we both clicked on the same thing and we're both looking at the same thing, but yours looks different than mine. Oh, click on number 2, automatically nested headings. And then the link is in here. It's detailed walkthrough. It's if you, yeah, right there. So maybe that documentation is near the end. It started looking a little bit similar. Step 3, provide the context. Says wrap them with a context provided, provide the level context to them.
I mean, that might kind of go through, but that's definitely not what I was
Okay.
learning from. It wasn't headings at all. Close my Bing window? I guess I did. Oh yeah, it reset on me. Wrap up, use context, and provider in a custom component. React. I don't know if it's polite when you're talking to AI to write in what would work in a search context.
They'll come back for you when they become sentient.
Well, I think I almost get like people say you get a better response if you say like please and thank you. Like if you're polite to it, its responses are more polite. Not that it's conscious or anything, but based on the data it's trained on, it just might be a weird quirk of the algorithms.
Makes sense.
I like Bing because it gives you links. I haven't tried ChatGPT 4 or whatever.
I use GPT-4 and Perplexity, their GPT-4 version. I've liked that.
Find a documentation.
Does tasks and dispatch ring a bell? Use reducer tasks dispatch.
Well, I'm definitely using reducers and stuff, and dispatch. Um, but I think that this was in the component. Took us back to the same place. Let me just check one thing. There's a chance that I put it in the README. No, I moved the README to about, by the way.
I saw that. Yep.
I do like kind of putting this in here because there's so many projects where I use different stuff. It's nice to just go, oh yeah, React Firebase hook with, no, not it. With Cloud Firestore. Uh, no, that was the The full component also have access thing.
This looks promising. It is. Where is it? Is it on your screen? Looks.
There's
I'll
just
just put
one
it
at
in.
the very bottom. They said, "Oh, and you can wrap this all up in a component." I mean, maybe I'm just
No, this might be it. I'll send it to you in chat.
okay.
It's saying scaling up with reducer and context, moving all wiring into a single file.
Oh, there you go.
So see if this looks familiar at all.
Yeah,
The moving
yeah,
all
yeah.
wiring
Oh,
is at the
this is
very bottom.
definitely yeah, the Kyoto. I even remember that
Perfect.
example. All
Nice.
right, right, right. So this is what I was trying to accomplish, and that's the quirk that's different from the other documentation we're looking at, where we have a single component. What I can't remember is how to hook up that component into a page and get all the data into the page so that we could call the function. Which I don't know if we'll be able to figure that out now because I keep sipping on my whiskey. Uh,
That's
but
all right.
but this is definitely the documentation. Look at what I was doing, and then come back to me with meaningful questions.
Yeah, that makes sense. And by page, when you were saying that, that's like the app page, or ours is
Yeah,
page, but
right.
in this example, it's app or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So
Yeah,
let's
I think
try.
I generally follow that, so maybe I can kind of deconstruct it and reconstruct it.
So they have this tasks provider. They have. Oh, see, here's like use task dispatch.
And that's where you used your custom.
Not
Oh no, your custom is for
quite.
reducer. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So well, it still is a reducer does have a dispatch. I'm just not using the use reducer. I built my own
Right.
reducer, which is
Yeah.
just to confuse you. No, there's a reason. Uh, use task dispatch. What is use task dish task context? Use task dispatch. So it's just a function that's exported and you import it. Is that all we have to do? And then it just hooks up. Okay, maybe. Yeah,
Oh,
so
interesting. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
if you wanna, yeah, so I'd be happy if you wanna try and just hack at it, and then I can't imagine that you'll be able to figure it out because I didn't leave you enough. I'm thinking it through, and it's like I don't think there's enough strings for you to pull, but
Right. Yeah.
you get enough context to ask me questions that'll then. But this is definitely the documentation I was imitating.
Perfect. No, that makes sense. And I'm happy to do it. Like I said, I'll learn a bunch
Yeah.
and yeah, it'll connect us to where you left off and maybe I'll kind of join you there. So
Let me, while we're on the call, before I let you go, let me put this in a state that we can put it to bed, and then I can pick out my flow provider. I just got to make sure I don't undo too much stuff.
yeah, I hear you. I also have a question for when you've
Yeah,
done that.
go ahead and
Just
fire away.
curious about organizing documents and how you feel or where you want to go with I guess like components and their CSS because we're getting kind of more and more files and in that one directory.
Yeah.
And is that just how you want to continue? I'll wait till you're done.
Yeah. Let's use flow data provider. Okay, I can rename that. Page data. Let's undo all these changes. I think I was futzing around in here and didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, I was trying to make it to where we could do both. We'll have to figure that out. Putting be gone forever. Are you sure? I hope.
Yeah, that's so final, hey?
Right. Yeah. Well, they're trying to warn you. Go ahead and take this out. Oh, one kind of like naming convention, TODO:. There's actually, so if you use that, there's a tool that you can put over in the lower hand corner and it'll tell you everywhere you have that. It'll highlight these to-dos.
Nice.
Um, from here.
I can see that being useful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I don't even have it installed right now, but it was all right. Just these changes, and I got this naming convention. At least it matches. All right, nodes and edge. No, it doesn't match. But the flow data provider, I did make it match. Okay. A really bad commit message would be um, handoff
Mhm.
code needs lots of work.
I'm surprised that Git Copilot hasn't taken over the commit messages yet.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Although it's sometimes still hard to kind of figure out intent.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. All right. So you're good with that. How's everything? Oh, what other questions?
It was in terms of file structure
Oh,
layout.
right, right, right.
So in that folder, we're just getting a few components and then now CSS as well. And so if I were to extract, I know at least of two things I want to extract from a page. And so
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to have, four. Is there another way you'd like to organize this, or is this how you'd like to keep it going forward?
I know it's getting big, and there's several ways to do it. Do you have a preference yet, or are you just curious?
Not a huge preference. I've used just the components folder and then maybe putting all the CSS in one file, but I'm happy with whatever you'd
Oh,
like to do.
definitely a components folder
Okay.
in here. It just feels weird, but these are components within this page. So I guess that's the proper Next.js. If you have components that are dedicated to a page, then it would be in here. I'm just used to, I have not used the Next.js page file naming convention.
Yeah. And
So
so if these components are overall components, they'd be in a higher level probably then.
yeah, so there'd be a
Yeah.
components folder in the app folder.
Okay. That makes sense.
And see, look, I actually have components here outside of apps. The question is, maybe that component actually goes into app itself. Or no, actually it doesn't, because everything in the app folder is actually kind of like a page structure. This is the new way of doing it. So
Right.
in the older way, there's a pages folder at this level, and they moved it to underneath the app. So make sure we're using that newer convention. So I think the components would be here rather than under app.
That makes
But
sense.
that's
Yeah.
only if they're reused in multiple places. And the Firestore one is one we were gonna potentially use in different versions of the UI. Of course, once again, I overcomplicated it. I should have just left flow at the top and we could have moved it out later. Yeah, and then here's reasons for next, and then just general utils that are used in both places. And these aren't used yet. So this is me, scatterbrain. This is, that scripting thing to where
Oh yeah. Yeah.
you can play timelines and stuff like that. And then I wanted to also, a general rule of my apps is that you need to be able to save your data locally. So these are just to save and read. upload a file and save it.
Oh, perfect.
And they're not very complex, but there is something weird to where some browsers, there's still some browser inconsistency, so it just handles that.
So
Uh,
in terms of components, we'll do app components, and then I think I'll Google what Next.js's convention is for specific page components
yeah, I
if they
imagine
have
they would
something
say a
separate.
component folder under here. Oh, now also a change I did is you see this colon
Yeah,
bracket
I saw that and I
convention.
read about it. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And the code for that, the page.tsx.
Yeah, I think there's a console log in here as well. Actually, that's console logging the slug.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So then
yeah,
later on, that can go to
there it
the
is.
React stuff and pull the data from React. But we can take that out if it gets too confusing right now. I was
No, I think this is good for forward, like future proofing it. So
now this thing in here that I created where it's adding 4 items to that thing. We need to either like just take this data and put it in the dummy data, which what did we even call that dummy data? RS data. Yeah, is just put them in here so we're not adding them, which I should have done from the beginning. Does that make sense?
what I guess kind of, but like the actions themselves or the data that the actions
Just
produce.
the data that the actions produce.
So
Actually,
then,
if what you want to do is run it and then go into the console and output RS data and paste it in here.
but it's not actually real data. It's just test that
Yeah,
stuff in the page.tsx.
it's
So we can
just
just delete
dummy
it.
data that
Yeah.
pops up. Yeah.
Like it's possibly good to have something in the page saying like, here's an example of how you would add additional um
Yeah. Except it's
kind of some
confusing
benefit.
now because it only runs
That's true. Yeah, good point.
on that kind of default data. Or move it out to another file. I
You
don't
know,
know.
one place it could go would be as a comment in the adding a node function. Maybe that's where
Yeah.
it needs to
I'm
live.
actually surprised it's not in the page data file. And actually, these interfaces should really be in the interfaces folder.
Yeah,
Or
fair enough.
what is it
Types,
called? Types
types.
folder, right. So if we want to break these out to types, um, then that, and now that I've renamed the reason score stuff to not use node and edge because it's connectors and scores and claims, we could probably just, I don't know if we still, I don't know. I don't know if
One
we just have
idea
a name
could
for
be
that.
each one of those that we'd be moving into a types folder. Just make a list of them, and like before you delete them, make sure they have translated over to the new structure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So a lot of this stuff could go, all these different types and stuff could go into, yeah, into separate files, even in a types folder, the interfaces and the types. So that would clean this up some too. And then, yeah, eventually we'll pull things out of this and put it in its right place. This is kind of a dumping ground. And a lot of some of this has been replaced within the new code, but not all of it. Anyways, we'll figure it out. But yeah, so I have meetings. I don't know. You probably can't see my calendar. I mean, you could, if you tried to book some time, you'd see I don't have any.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, like this is my calendar. See, this week I have like tons of meetings. This is all working because while I'm in town, they're gonna work me. Um, all the orange stuff.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I can work on this dev stuff and I still have those other two non-dev tasks that I have not started yet. So
Yeah,
if I ever run out of dev or run into a wall in
yeah,
dev, I can do that other stuff too.
yeah.
So no
And then
problem.
I'm in Virginia with my wife, and they take up all the time. She
A
has
good break, a
she has
good
yeah,
vacation.
it'll be a good break, and she has this like going to historical. places and everything. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna be
get your
pretty
mind
busy. But
completely
definitely,
off
if
of
you
this.
get some blockers, just ask me questions in the chat, and then we can schedule a meeting and stuff like that. Because I'd rather keep you moving. It's not gonna hurt me to take an hour out of either this week or next week.
Okay,
Um,
yeah. If
but
I
yeah,
do make a Loom video or something, I'll try and make it very specific and very clarified.
yeah. But also, yeah, if you can find something else to do, do it. But if you get kind of stuck and you're kind of like, well, I don't know what to do next, feel free. This isn't like I'm not at a silent meditation retreat or anything. You
I
can
almost went to
interrupt
one
me.
of those.
Oh, you did? Now,
Almost. I really want to actually.
just be careful. There have been people that have had mental breaks on a silent retreat.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
I'm trying to think of who. Tim, Tim Ferriss. Yeah, the 4 hour work week guy.
Yeah, yeah.
He had, I think, his first silent retreat, or he was interviewing someone who had a silent retreat. They're really good. I mean, I've never done them, but from what I hear, they're really good. But
Yeah,
if you have some unresolved issues, they will come up because you can't
that's
sit and
yeah.
not have any distractions from the world or other people and not work through your crap, right?
That's the beauty of it. It's
Right.
forced. It's yeah,
And then if you have too much crap at once and you don't have someone there to hold your hand, sometimes it's challenging, but it's good
100%.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also like I try to once a year take like just a 3 day retreat and go off in the woods somewhere and think about what I want to do. I haven't needed
That's
to.
super awesome.
Yeah, I haven't needed to so much because I know this reason. Oh, I bought the domain Reason Tracker.
Reason tracker. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so score is a little too like final.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you.
So I'm thinking of rebranding the Reason Tracker. It was only $11 for a year, so
Yeah.
my addiction keeps growing.
We're collectors, I think,
Right,
knowledge workers in
right.
general, just like collecting all of the knowledge and
Yeah,
possibilities. And yeah,
yeah. I'll work on that. All right, man. Well, I'll go ahead and let you go, but definitely hit me up if you have questions. Don't feel shy, but I'll be
or
slow to respond.
no problem. Thank you for this. I appreciate it. It definitely was enlightening in terms of like where to go next and what you've done. So
Yeah.
thank you for taking the
Well,
time
I
for this.
appreciate you having patience with me, kind of like pulling the rug out from under you and then reshifting the framework and then, shifted the whole world around to throw you back in. Hey, figure this out. I
That's good.
appreciate
It's
that.
more challenging, more things to learn.
All right, man. Well, you have a good evening.
You too. Take care.